So once again, welcome you all for this 10 days short-term course on research methodology and yoga therapy, getting conducted by Faculty of Yoga Sciences and Therapy under Student Council Organization. And you are looking at, let's start the session with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Vidyam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let me share my screen. Hope you can see my screen and my voice is clear. Host, can you please acknowledge?
Visible, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So yesterday we have seen little bit about introduction, which was required for statistics, the introduction about the research for statistics, what we have seen about the definition of research, the purpose and aim of research, then the broad categorization of research, the research approaches, the research method, research methodology, and then what it could be when it is coming for your sample, how statistics would get involved, how the relation between the statistical divisions to the research, right? And how the biases would come when you are starting your research. Where could it begin all about? So with that introduction, today we are getting into the second session of research methodology. So exactly we are getting into the statistic part of it. So with this small introduction yesterday, as we had, statistics is all about, again, if you're categorizing it, it would be under descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. I'll just switch off my video because it is blocking my screen. So we have descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So descriptive statistics is all about which is concerned with the development of certain indices. Indices in the sense, if you are using the data to provide descriptions of the population. So it will give, though you might have done some calculation work behind, the background is containing some simple, analysis of your data. But when it is coming to projecting your result, it would be purely giving a description of the parameters. Okay, the parameters, the characteristics, what you get in your sample, if you are directly relating it to the population parameters in a descriptive way, then that it comes as descriptive statistics. So you might be either doing it through the numerical calculations, or you might be getting it in a form of graphical representations or in the form of tables, but everything would be in a description form. So that the purpose of the descriptive statistics is, though a person who knows statistics or a statistician will understand the technicality of it. Okay, so that technicality, when it is coming to a person who is a layman, who is not understanding it, but the approach has to reach that person who is not even knowing that statistics is the purpose of your descriptive statistics. So even a layman can understand what is it all about. If, for an example, in a newspaper about a company, right, they give all their closing statements with what is that they have got in their audit book. Okay, if everything comes as a full page, but just looking at it, I might not understand because it is full of data. But if that would have been in a graphical form, okay, saying that over the past 5 years, what is that the progress of the company, Just by looking at the graph, going, inclining, I can understand, just simply understand that, yes, I can invest in this company. So such is a description, okay, which will help out even a layman understand, comes under descriptive statistics. And coming to the inferential statistics will concern with process of generalization. This is also known as sampling statistics, because you are involved taking up the sample, then every process till testing of the statistical hypothesis you go about. Here there are two major types, okay, which can be, or the problems which can be uh, uh, handled in inferential statistics. One is estimation of the population. Second is testing of the statistical hypothesis. Being as the research scholars, we do all of the most of the studies with testing of statistical hypothesis. Whereas if there are masses of data which need to be handled, and where exactly the futuristic data is required, okay, for a particular product or service or for an institution, then such a case is done by estimation. So generally we go about using the testing of statistical hypothesis. So when it is coming to descriptive statistics, we should, right, though we might not be knowing statistics, but we should know little about small calculations where it talks about mean, median, mode, and deviation of the data from the mean, deviation of the data from mode. Okay, all such things, minimum basics is required when we are getting into the completeness of research methodology. We should not say that this is not our part of the job, right? We should even know it, so that whenever it is coming to, whenever it is you getting into or looking into somebody else's work, then you can understand very easily, because you have little background about it. So main purpose of this program is make you aware of these small fundamentals, which would help out in improving or excelling our uh, 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 work in PhD. So next is the important statistical measures. If you could look at important statistical measures, which I can again say these are must and should required for descriptive statistics. So must and should required for every person who wants to do research, or they can be measures of central tendency, otherwise called as statistical averages, where we will have mean, median, mode, and then measures of dispersion, which we have the range, variance, mean deviation, standard deviation, quartile deviation, all this would come up. And then measures of asymmetry, which we talk about skewness or kurtosis. Then measures of relationship, if you want to find the relationship between the variables, how strong they are, whether they are related positively or negatively, or there is no relation, such a kind of a relation you want to build. And there are other such measures also, but must and should, we should know that these statistical measures are required to understand minimum about the work, the background done under for any research. So first, let's look into the measures of central tendency. If you could look at the measures of central tendency, as I told you, it is mainly the statistical average. The three most important ones among the measures of central tendency is mean, which is otherwise called as arithmetic average, median, and mode. Mean is nothing but your just average. How do you calculate the average? If the scores are given to you, the sum of the scores by number of scores. Sum of the scores by number of scores would give you the mean. Next is your median. Median is if you are taking a series of numbers, and if you are arranging it either in ascending order and descending order, picking up the middle number would be median. Picking up the middle number. So you'll be striking off, you'll be striking off, okay, one on each side, and ultimately whichever you're finding it as a single digit, that would come as median. But again, there would be a problem here. If the given scores are even, right, even in observations, then how would you do is you'll be taking the middle two, average of the middle two as your median, right? So median is the value of the middle item of the series, right? Which will be checked after you arranging them in order, right? Order of the magnitude. Then mode is the most commonly or frequently used one, right? Where in the given series, right? Whichever number is occurring mostly, right? Whichever is getting repeated, then that is called as mode. Now let's look at if purpose of mean. To determine the mean, as I told you, you have to take the total sum of the scores by number of the scores. And why we require this is, yesterday we were talking about bias, okay, sample bias or sampling bias. So when you are doing certain calculations, you can even check, okay, every step of it by looking into whether your data is very close to the center or not. So that is the purpose of your measures of central tendency. So how much of deviation is happening from the middle value? Because if there is an abnormality in the scores, right, in any, if any one of the score is going abnormal, which we call it as outlier, right? Because of that just one outlier, the entire result will go the other ways. Okay, they'll be flipping off your result just with some outliers. So in that case, the researcher should be very, very careful, even looking at their calculation to be very, very strong. Right. So let's look into the examples for mean, median, and mode. So if you're looking at mean, some scores are given here, and summing up those scores, dividing by number of observations. Here, number of observations are 9. So sum of the scores by number of scores is giving me the mean. So out of the given data, right, this is the average of it. Right. From this average, how much ever the values are very close to it, they make the strong of my sample. They make strong of my data. So I need to always look into that central tendency of my data also to avoid the biases. If you're looking at median, I told you there could be even observations and there could be odd observations. If they are odd observations, no problem. You can just get it by number of observations plus 1 by 2th score. That means to say here, if you are looking at, right, these observations, there are 9, right? 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 by 2 is 5. The fifth score, that is what this means. N plus 1 by 2th score. So that would be your median. Median will be the 5th value, which will be 14. If otherwise, if it is even observation, then what you do is you have to take the n plus 1 by 2th score plus n plus 1 by 2 plus 1 score average of it. Okay, by 2. So here the median, now the scores are 10 here, okay, which will be an even number. Now you have to make the 5th and 6th, average of 5th and 6th values as your median, right? Next, coming to the mode, the maximum repeated numbers. It need not be. Sometimes the given set of data might not repeat any of the values, so there need not be any mode, or there can be one mode or more than one mode, right? If there are more than one mode, you have to include even the other one also getting equally repeated as your mode. Then there is one more concept called as range. Range will give you what is that, the length of the scores, and it is very simple. You will be taking the largest value in your scores minus the smallest value would give you the range. If you guys are ready, then we can make a simple calculation out of this. Find mean, median, mode. Keep your papers or book ready. Now, find the mean, median, mode for the given data set. 15, 9, 16, 9, 20, 14, 10, 9, 10, and 9. I'm not taking this onto screen because I want you guys to be little alert. I'm again repeating the scores: 15, 9, 16, 9, 20, 14, 10, 9, 10, and 9. Now let's find the mean, median, and mode for these raw scores. Yesterday we have seen something like raw scores and group scores. Raw scores are the individual scores, where the group scores will be taken as one particular class interval and grouped according to the required number of frequencies coming into that class interval. So if anyone is ready, they can tell out what is the mean of the scores given. You can either put it in chat also. If anyone is ready, mean please. It's 12.1, or please check. Yes, exactly. Mode is 9. Exactly. Yes, please. Mean. Okay. Mode is correct. Median, please. For making it median, you have to arrange the scores in ascending order. Very nice. Very nice. Range is 11. Correct. Excellent. Okay, great. Can we have one more? Yes, the scores would be. I'm giving one more. Sheetal, no problem. Please take. Second example. Nine, 9, 9, 10, 10, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20. I repeat once again. Already I'm giving you in ascending order: 9, 9, 9, 10, 10, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20. Find the mean, median, mode, and range of the given data set. Excellent. Mode is 9. Yes, median is 12. Good. Yes, mean is 13.1. Excellent. Yes, that's it. Just seeing is not doing. So the act of doing should be doing. That's the reason we are even encouraging you to do this. Very good. Excellent. How? Who said 9 and 10? 9 and 10 mode. No. See, if you could look at 9 is repeating 3 times and 10 is repeating only 2 times. So whichever is repeating more will be the mode. So 9 would be the mode. Yeah. Good. So the measures of central tendency, which we also refer to it as measures of central location, would be helping us to summarize the measure that will attempt to, give the whole of the set of data into a single value. Now, just by looking at the average, I can say that what is that average coming out of it? What is that value which is getting repeated, and what is the middle of my scores? So it is very easy for us to summarize the measures, right? And if this mean median mode is done for raw scores. Yesterday I was telling you that we have something called as raw scores and group scores. So this is what we have done for raw scores, that is individual scores. If it comes to group score, how it has to be done, let us see. If it is for a group data, okay, first, if you have to understand the group data, then you have to know something called as frequency distribution. Like if you could see in the screen, there is something called as student marks in mathematics, right? So all the scores are just given sidewise. Just by looking at that big number, okay, no one will be interested in looking at it and say, ah, this is something maths. It's not my cup of tea, right? So in that case, what you do, you'll get that data into some kind of a tabular form, so that, just by looking at the table, yes, my eyes are relieved. Okay, there is no tension in my eyes, and no tension in my brain. So if you could look at this portion, so same thing, if I am putting in a table, it is giving little more efficiency, or little more liberty of expressing the data. But here, if I'm keeping up, say these scores are very limited, so I can take the strain of pain of putting it in the table. But if this is a very big, huge value going on and on and on, then in that case, I need to do the grouping. So how I do the grouping is, there comes the concept of your class interval. So I pick up one range, right? And how do you pick up this range? You have to start from the lowest value of the given data set till the highest value of the given data set. So whichever number is falling to be low here, that should be getting involved, and whichever number is high, that should also be getting involved. Here it is once again. One small correction. So I need to do the grouping of this, right, basing on this lower and upper values. So this grouping, how you do generally with a gap of, this gap which is shown as from the lower limit to upper limit is called as width of the class. Width of the class. Width of the class is again the researcher's convenience, right? How much they want this width to be. There are no hard and fast rules. You can make it the multiples of 5, keeping a width of 5 or 10 or 15, 20, depending upon how big is your data. So here I'm finding among the given data set, what is that it is being as a lower value, and what is it is being as your upper value. So if it is 12, so the prior number to it, I'm just taking it for my convenience so that it will be a rounded figure. So 10 to 20, I made it as one class interval. And whatever the width of the class I'm maintaining, width of the class can be, this 20 minus 10. So I'm making a gap of 10 here. That need to be maintained constantly across other class intervals, right? That will be convenient if you're maintaining, right, the class interval constant. If it is not maintained also, no problem. But to make it very smooth, maintain this width of the class. So I made it as 10, the lowest, and 100 as the highest. Now, what I need to do, in your lower classes, like if you want to group your data, right, tally method, right? You just go for whatever the scores are coming in that range. You just, if it is coming as 1, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, and cross over it with the 5. So if you could recollect that, the same is the thing we are going to do with the help of frequency. Frequency is number of repetitions of the score that is falling in this particular range, right? So if you could look at 10 to 20 among the scores, right, this is the number which is picking up, right? So like that, if you are distributing the scores, grouping the scores, this becomes frequency distribution. And this frequency distribution, I'll tell you, it will be very, very, very helpful in our research, so that again we can look for the stability of our data. For an example, if I am doing a study on hypertension, so in hypertension, my direct variable would be systolic blood pressure or diastolic blood pressure. So if I'm taking the systolic blood pressure as my variable, okay, to as my element of the sample to collect my data. So while collecting my data itself, I can look how strong and how weak I am collecting my data, right? By using the frequency distribution. So you put across what would be the, among the systolic blood pressures you have collected as your scores, what is the minimum, what is the maximum, and look for where it is, whether it is, falling constantly on one areas or what are the outliers. You just remove that outliers then and there itself. So always have your sample big so that you have a choice of making, while collecting your data also, there are no bias and you can make your study as well as the result very strong. So this is all about the frequency distribution. So just by looking at this table, I can very well see, right? And for your convenience, again, you can change this class interval, say for according to this example. Now I can look for, if I want to report this as a frequency distribution, I can say that whoever have got less than, right, 35, I can show it. Whoever have got between, 36 and 70 or 74, I can show it. So just by looking at this frequencies distribution, I can look at what all the scores which has been and how broadly the scores have been covered. So keeping this frequency distribution in your mind, this is how it works for a group data. Let's now come back to the mean for group data. So if you're looking at this class interval is here, some scores are given, right? Scores are given, and the frequency, that is the score which is falling in this range, were also given, right? Now there is one more thing coming up. So first let's look at the formula for mean for group data. Formula for mean for raw scores were sum of scores by number of scores. Now if it is mean for group data, it is sum of fx by sum of f. So there is f means frequency, I know, but there is some other variable which is popping up, which is called as x. X is nothing but the midpoint of your class interval. Midpoint of the class interval is calculated as, your upper limit plus lower limit by 2. So average of your upper and lower limit would be the midpoint. So for an example, if you could see here, 1 plus 10 by 2 would be 5.5. So for this class interval, the x value would be 5.5. So like that, we have calculated the x values, right? So x values are also available. Frequency is given. X value is calculated. Now, what is that we require? Again, the sum of f. So you just, make the sum of all the scores of the frequencies given. So this part is also over. Sum of f is available. Now we have something here. Always when you are calculating, come from left to right, right to left, right? So we finish off this part. So sum of f is calculated. Then we need to look into something f into x. So product of f and x has to be done. So I have done that. Then sum of f and x. So sum of f and x has been done here. So every detail is available, right? This bar indicates that it's the, average of it, mean average of the group data. So sum of fx is here and sum of f is here. So 1385.5 by 41 is 33.79 is the mean average for group scores. Now to understand little more, let's do this. I am keeping the same class intervals. Let's change the frequency. Please take it. Okay, frequencies, please. 6, 7, 10, 12, 14, 11. Okay, so now take this class interval and these data 6, 7, 10, 12, 14, and 11. Please calculate mean for the group data. The formula is sum of fx by sum of f. First, you need to find, see already the midpoints are available here. So take the same midpoints. Now do f into x. Okay, f into x is 6 into your 5.5. You need to do that. Okay, and then total it up. Vijay Kumari, are you here, ma? Or Navneet?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please help me in calculation so that it will be a little quick?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Let everyone do also. We will also do along. Yes. Now quickly find the sum of the frequencies. 6 plus 7 plus 10 plus 12 plus 14 plus 11. Put it in the chat box, please. 60. Okay. Very nice. So I'm taking 60 as a sum here. Right. Now class interval is here, right? Just f into x. For the first, please let me know. Navneeta, 6 into 5.5. $33. Yes. For the second one, 7 into 15.5. Or not 8.5. Very nice. Now third one. Third one. 255. Excellent. Next. Fourth one. 426. Fifth one. 14 into 45.5. 637. Excellent. And the last one. 11 into 55.5. 610.5. Excellent. Very good. Now, can somebody quickly sum up this f and x values, please? 33 plus 108.5 plus 255 plus 426 plus 637 plus 610.5. So 2070 is given total. Same coming for everyone. 2070. Good, excellent. So almost every score is coming as 2070. Excellent. Now let's substitute these values in the formula sum of fx by sum of f, right? So sum of fx is your 2070 divided by 60. So what is that coming to? Okay. Now quickly take up 2070 by 60. Good, excellent. Is 36.5 everyone getting? I see there is a changeover. 34.5 is repeating. 2070 divided by 60. 34.5 is correct. Excellent. Yes, great job. So this is how you will be calculating mean for group data. I think we are getting into, we are trying to understand, right? So mean for raw scores is over, mean for group data is over. So is this clear? Yes. Excellent. So I'm going now for the other one. Next one would be the median for group data. Okay. Now let's see, we know that median is the middle value of the given scores. Now how to do that was for raw scores and how to do it for middle, okay, for the group data. Then the formula would be L plus N by 2 minus CF by F into H. Here N represents the number of observations and CF represents the cumulative frequency, F represents the frequency, and H represents the class width. How gap is your class from the lower limit to the upper limit. Okay, now there is something called as L. Okay, the lower boundary of the selected median class. Selected median class, how you do is, here after you finding n by 2, n is the sum of this. Okay, n by 2 here, if you could see, 50 by 2 is 25. So this value, wherever it is falling in the frequency, more or less, you need to pick that class as your median class. In that median class, you need to take the lower boundary as the L value. So here I have mentioned here, L. Okay. And then n by 2, do it 50 by 2 minus, there is something called as CF. CF is cumulative frequency. You need to just keep on adding the previous frequencies, right? So that ultimately your final frequency will be popped up in your last frequency which you are calculating. So how are you calculating it? First, class interval, it will be the same. Second would be, okay, plus of the previous, that is 8 plus 2 is 10. Next would be 12 plus 10, that would be 22. Okay, then 20 plus 22 would be 42, and 8 plus 42, 50. Right, this is how you will be making up cumulative frequency. Right, this cumulative frequency will help us in exactly knowing till that moment. Okay, if I'm breaking here, how exactly the frequency is matching up. Okay, what is the cumulation of the frequency? I can just break. Okay, let's say for an example, for the whole month, okay, if some sales has to be taken up, that cumulative frequency will help me out to look for week wise, okay, or midpoint of the month or mid of the year, like that. So real time applications would be like that. So here we are taking cumulative frequency. Now L is your 150, okay, N is 50 by 2 minus, right, whichever the class you are taking as a median class, the previous one would become your cumulative frequency. So not the same one. Okay, frequency comes from the same class, but cumulative frequency comes from the previous class, right? So I'm taking 22 here as a cumulative frequency, and frequency is 20, and class width is 10. So from 120 to 130, 130 to 140, right? The width of the class is, which is represented here as H, is 10. So if you're calculating this, again come from the last, right? 10 would be like that only. So first you need to do n by 2 minus F. After that, you have to divide it by F, and then you have to multiply with 10, and then come back to adding it to the L. So 151.5. And you can cross over, check over this value which you have calculated. More or less, this will be falling in the range which you have picked as your median class. So 151.5, it is lying within this range. Like that, you can find the accuracy of your calculation. Right? Now let's do a small problem on median for group data. Okay. Now we'll change over, we'll keep, this lower bound. Let's see where the lower boundary will come. We'll just change these values. Can I get scores from you in the chat box? I need 5 scores. Make it small scores so that your calculation will be simple, but keep in your mind, these will be the scores which are actual scores from your sample. Okay, for the elements, for the variables which you are picking up. Yes. So I'm taking the scores 12. Okay, 8. After that, I could see 20. After that, I could see again 12. And one more score, please. Enough. 7. Okay. Just quickly find out the sum of these frequency values. 12 plus 8 plus 20 plus 12 plus 7. 59. Great. Everyone getting 59? Now, 59 by 2. Okay, we need to find this n by 2. Yes, 59 by 2. 29.5. Excellent. Got it? Now, cumulative frequency. Let's come back to the cumulative frequency. First one is 12. Now, please repeat. What could be the next? What could be the next? Chat box, please. 20. Great. Next one. 40. Great. Yes. 52. Excellent. Yes. 59. That's it. Okay. Now, we are in a mode to choose the median class. So, where is this? N by 2 means 29.5, right? This 29.5 anywhere here in the given scores? No. More or less, it is coming to 20 here, right? So, this would be now the median class. Okay. This 140 would be your lower limit. Okay. Right. I'm taking this off. And now your L value is 140. Okay. Now the frequency of the same class would be your frequency. And your cumulative frequency, which is your cumulative frequency? Frequency is, frequency is 20. Yeah. And which is your cumulative frequency now? Excellent. 20. Now we have the data, cumulative frequency, sum of the frequency. Okay. Now lower boundary, everything is available. Now you just, substitute in the formula given. L is 140 plus 59 by 2 minus CF is 20 by F is 20 again into 10. So can someone quickly do this and let me know what could be the answer? Excellent. Everyone getting 144.75? Excellent. That's it. So this is the median for group data. Always take the digits, more or less 2, minimum 2, right? So that, again, you'll avoid the bias in your calculation, right? Don't go for 1 digit, at least go for minimum of 2 digits, right? Again, this will, create some kind of a problems when the data is larging up, the value will again, create some kind of a bias, right? So excellent. So this is about median for group data. Excellent. Now let's move on to the mode. So how do you calculate mode for group data? Mode is something which is occurring very frequently in a large number, right? For individual scores, we have already done it. Now, if you want to calculate this for group data, the formula is L plus F1 minus F0 by 2 F1 minus F0 minus F2 into H. Okay, don't get panic. These are all frequencies, which are exactly when you are taking one class as a model class, then for that, whichever, the frequency is popping up, that would be F1, and the previous one would be F0, and the next one would be F1, F2, right? F0, F1, F2, so that will come in an order, right? So here 3 frequencies are coming up, right? Which would be exactly the one which comes from the model class, and the one which is preceding, and one which is succeeding. And H, that it is the class width, and L is the lower boundary. So here, how to choose the model class? Wherever the frequency is more, that you have to pick up as your model class. So here, if you could see the frequencies, 14 is the greater one. So number of occurrences are happening more in this class. So 14 would be fixing up as your model class, and you need to take that particular lower limit of your class as L value. So L is 130. Now this frequency which is coming in, showing in the model class, will become F1, and the previous one will become F0, and next one will become F2. So when you know all these values, right, class width is 10. So substituting it, you get the mode for group data. Now let's do it. Copied. Now I'm just changing only the frequencies because we'll be running short of time. Frequencies from you, please. Yes, 12, great. 14, excellent. 6, 5, one last value, 18. Picked up, enough. So I'm changing all this. Let's for a moment. Now, what will be the model class? Model class, which should be your model class acting now? Yes, great. So whichever the frequency is coming up, 18 is the largest. So the lower limit, okay, L value would be 160. Great. Now, what is the F1 value? F1, great. F0, F0, great. Then what would be F2 now? We don't have any other value. So we'll substitute it with 0. So F2 would be here 0. Great. Now substitute all these values there in L plus F1 minus F0 by 2, F1 minus F0 minus F2 into H. Okay. So let's take L value as 160. Right. I'm just taking this off. So 160 here. Then F1 is 18 minus F0 is 5. 2 into F1 is again 18. F0 is 5 minus 0. Okay. So who is getting answer for this? Yes. Anyone ready with the answer? 164.19. Great. Let's look if somebody else will also be getting the same answer. 164.19. Rest of the people, anyone who finished can confirm whether it's correct. Great. That's it. Okay. So this is how you will be doing the, I can't understand. Oh, what is that you can't understand? Please let me know. Okay. So mode for group data, I'm repeating once again. Mode for group data. Mode is that which is occurring more number of times. Okay, the score which is occurring more number of times. Okay, this is for you, whoever has asked. Now, where is that it is more frequently occurring? So this is the biggest score. 18 is the biggest score. So now this class has to be picked up as a model class, so that you can take the lower boundary value, this L value from here. Okay, so 160 would be L value. Now, in that same class, whatever the frequency is coming up, that becomes your F1 value. The preceding value would become F0. So F0, F1, F2. But F2, we don't have anything here. So we need to substitute it with 0. So F1 is 18 minus F0 is 5 by 2 into F1 is 18 minus F0 is 5 minus 0 into H. H is the class width. 120 to 130 is 10. Okay, the gap between your lower and upper limits of your class interval. So 10. So by substituting and calculating this value, you get the mode for group data. Great. Yes, 164.19. Great. Thank you. Now let's move on to the next topic. So this is about calculating measures of central tendency for raw scores as well as group scores. Now we have another 5 minutes. Let me introduce you with the next topic, and then we'll hand over the session to the next session. Then measures of variability. So as I told you, measures of variability helps to measure the magnitude of variation, magnitude of diversion, magnitude of dispersion from the central value. Okay, now understand, we need to first find the central value, then only we can pick up the concept of measures of variability. So already we have seen the measures of central tendency. From there, how much ever the magnitude of variance is happening in your scores, that can be calculated with the help of measures of variability. So the four measures of variability are, already we know range, the highest value minus lowest value. But this is so weak because it is just, very vague. It is not following any scales and it is not even, going about, it's the weakest measures of variability in statistics. The other one are mean deviation, quartile deviation, standard deviation. So mean deviation will tell us what is that the magnitude of variation of scores is happening from mean. Okay, from the center of the value of the mean, right? So now let's look into it. So mean deviation represented by MD, right, is the average of absolute deviations of scores from any average value. Any average value is any mean value. The formula for this is 1 by n. N will be number of observations again. Sum of modulus of x minus x bar. X already you know the frequencies which would be given to you, and x bar would be the average of the frequencies. Okay, you need to again find this as the mean. Okay, whatever you have done as a mean, sum of scores by number of scores, right? Then x bar once known, you have to pick up each value of x and you have to find the difference of x and x bar, right? X and x bar, once you finish, then you have to substitute the values with sum of x by, right? I'm sorry, substitute it by 1 by n, sum of modulus of x minus x bar, right? Let's look into this. So mean deviation for raw scores. Again, the two concepts will come, raw score and group score, right? If you're looking it into x values would be given to you. These are all the x values, right? You need to find in the formula x bar. So average of your x scores, right? So total is this by number of observations or 10. So 4.4 would be the average of the x scores. So I know x bar now. Now I need to find x minus x bar. So for that, I need to have one more column open where I'll be doing x minus x bar, right? So I'm finishing it, the modulus of x minus x bar, so that if any negative value comes, that will be automatically become positive. Okay. So now 2 minus 4.4, 2 minus 4.4, 1 minus 2.4, 6 minus 2.4, like that you need to find for each and every score, right? Each and every frequency. Then you need to sum it up, right? Find the sum total of this x minus x bar modulus, right? So 20.8 would be the value here. Now, substituting these, we know number of observations are 10, and we know sum of modulus of x minus x bar, that is 20.8. Now, substituting these values in the formula, 1 by 10 into 20.8, that will be 2.08. So this is the mean deviation of your raw scores given, right? We will look into how much probability should be there of deviation so that your scores would be strong in next when we are talking about standard deviation, right? Shall we do one problem on this very quickly? Okay, time is running short. Excellent. Now the scores, I'll take only 5, okay, to make it very quick. 5 scores, please. 12 has been given. Great. Then 2, 6, 8. One last score, 9. Enough. Okay. We'll do only with 5 scores to understand, the calculation part of it. Yeah. Now find the sum of this. Quickly sum. 12 plus 2 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9. 37. Great. Now, x minus x bar, 12 minus 37. It will come in minus value, no problem. We are using modulus to convert it. 25. Great. Next. Next value, please. 2 minus 37. Yeah. Next. 6 minus 37. Great. Next. 8 minus. Great. Next. 9 minus. Great. That's it. So we've got x minus x bar. Okay. Making this into modulus will come as our positive values. Right? So I can take this as 25, 35, 29,
28.
30. Yes, 28. Oh, 28 isn't. Okay. Okay. Now, last one, 28 or the third one?
6 minus 37 is
Okay.
31.
Right.
9 minus 37 is 29. 28. 28. Last is 28.
Have a put correctly 25, 35, 28, 31.
20, 25, 31. Sorry, 25, 35, 31,
31. Okay.
29,
29. 28.
28.
Correct? Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Now sum total this 25 plus 35 plus 31 plus 29 plus 28. Yes, 148. Is it correct? Can someone confirm? Yes, great. 147 is coming up. Please check 148 or 147. 148. Great. So 148 by 10. The answer would be 14.8. Great. So this is about your mean deviation. Great. Excellent. I'm sorry. So this is how you'll be calculating. Okay, your mean deviation for the Frost course. In the next class, we'll proceed with the rest of the concepts. X bar, sum or mean. Mean, average. Average, sum of scores by number of scores. Yeah, great. Any other doubts? Yeah. Y10 is the class width. Here, oh, sorry. It is 5. Exactly, you have asked. Okay, I was in a hurry. 5. Great. Nicely, you are all, on with your class. Very good. So 148 by 5 is great going. Yeah, 29.6 coming up. Excellent. This is what, being attentive. Yeah. 28.6. Great doing, guys. Great. Any other doubts? Yes. X minus X bar. Yes. 12 minus. That I have, not corrected it. It was the previous, the thing. That's what, while typing, there are so many restrictions for me. Okay. Keeping on talking and then looking at the screen. Yeah. Please excuse. Yeah. So we end the session here. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much. Yeah, PPTs, HOD sir will, take the decision upon it. Okay, please be, keep, some patience. Thank you. So see you all in the next session. Have a great time.
Good evening, all of you. Am I audible now, Nitya Krishnan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all of you. This is Dr. Subbalakshmi. Let us get into yoga therapy session. So we can move on now. Yeah. So like yesterday, today also we'll be covering many conditions. So we may not able to go deeper into the pathological, physiological things happening in the system with the condition. As much as possible, we'll focus on the yogic practices, which are important for us. So the sinusitis, which we are going to start now. So sinusitis, ITIS, it means inflammation. So yesterday we seen another ITIS. What is the condition we seen yesterday? Ending with ITIS. So hope you remember that it was arthritis. Yesterday we seen arthritis. Again, ITIS is the inflammation that is in the musculoskeletal system. Yes, very good. Arthritis. It was in the musculoskeletal system. Here, ITIS is in the upper respiratory tract. Sinusitis, sinus, you may know that the cavity situated in the skull bone. So this inflammation is the body's protective mechanism. So it is not a disease condition. Actually, it is to protect. It is the body's mechanism that we have to understand. The body is trying to push the unnecessary things or the any pathological condition underlying, which is going on underlying, the body tries to come out of it. That is the body's reaction. So here in sinusitis, the upper respiratory tract, it is not upper respiratory, it starts there. The sinuses, which is in the front of our skull bone, there are 4 sinus cavities. 2 frontal sinuses, maxillary sinuses, ethmoid sinuses, and sphenoid sinuses. These are the names of the sinus cavities. Actually, sinuses are the air space in the skull lined with the mucous membranes. It's just lining of mucous membranes are there in the sinuses. Everybody's sinuses, it's like a fingerprints. It's not same for all. It is unique. In this sinusitis, inflammation happens in the lining of the sinuses where there is the mucous membranes. In this condition, when inflammation happens, it will be filled with the fluids, and slowly it may get into a problem through bacteria, viruses, or fungi that grow and may cause the infection. Conditions that cause sinus blockages include common cold, allergic rhinitis, all these things, deviated septum, nasal polyps, all these can cause the sinusitis. Some of the causes of sinusitis. The symptoms include facial pain or pressure, nasal stuffiness, nasal discharge, loss of smell, cough or congestion if it is progressed. Sometimes if it is severe infection, fever may also be there, bad breath, fatigue, sometimes maybe dental pain also. It's not that all a person having sinusitis may have all these symptoms. It depends person to person. They may have few symptoms. Others may have other symptoms. Mainly it is due to various allergies. If the person is prone to allergies, then it may lead towards sinusitis and climatic condition where the pollen exposure, if the pollens in the air may irritate the nasal passage, which may lead to sinusitis, or family history of migraine or headache may lead to this sinusitis. So this is about sinusitis. So let's move on to you. Are you moving on? Okay. The yogic practices, let's focus on the yogic practices for sinusitis. So when it comes to sinusitis, the kriyas are doing wonders here. Even the doctors, they recommend the neti, mainly the jala neti, which is very helpful in sinusitis. It is not that during the time when the person is doing neti, it's other times when the person is not having in terms of chronic sinusitis. I'm saying chronic sinusitis. Some people, they may have chronic sinusitis. So when they don't have sinusitis, at that time they have to do this jala neti on a regular basis. That will help to come out of this chronic sinusitis. And even in this acute sinusitis also, jala neti is very helpful. As you are all I hope you are all aware of the yogic practices. We are not getting into detail about how to do the technique, all those things, as our time is very limited. So the neti, when the starting with jala neti and then the sutra neti, and all these helps to bring actually what happens here in the mucous membrane, the hypersensitivity to the irritants which are there in the air pollutants kind of thing, they cause the hypersensitivity in the air passage, the mucous membrane. So these jala neti and sutra neti are helpful to bring down the hypersensitivity of the mucous membrane. So that way it helps in chronic sinusitis, where the person becomes on a daily basis, if they practice, the hypersensitivity reduces, so that the irritants may not cause the sinusitis, the frequent sinusitis. Initially, the frequency will be reducing, and then slowly the person can come out of this sinusitis, chronic sinusitis condition. So the kriyas are very helpful. Apart from kriyas, like Kapalbhati, Bastrika, all this helps to bring the blockages. The sinus are filled with the mucus, right? During sinusitis, all these Kapalbhati and Bastrika helps to bring out the clogged mucus. So after clearing the mucus, then they can do the practices. Asanas are also very helpful. Initially, they have to relieve these mucus from the sinusitis, and then moving towards the asana practice are also helpful. When the mucus are clogged, when some person may feel headache or heaviness, during that time it's better to avoid the forward bends, which may aggravate the condition. So at that time it's better not to give the forward bends, where the heaviness will be more, so the headache also will be more. So at that time avoid forward bends. Once the mucus is reduced, then we can focus on forward bends. Backward bends can be mild, supported, modified back bends can be given. Forward bends also, not full forward bend initially, the halfway or with the modification can be given. And then once the person is not having heaviness in the head, and then we can slowly progress towards full forward bends. And inversions are also helpful to clear the blockages. So the progress has to be gradually taken. The Kriya, when it comes to the Vamana Dauti, also is very helpful apart from this Jalaneti and the Sutraneti. And for relaxation, so relaxation also is very essential, because in sinusitis, as I mentioned, that the person may feel heaviness in the head and very restlessness because of this mucus accumulation. The relaxation helps a lot. So like yesterday, we can give chanting on exhalation, akara, ukara, makara, or omkara, or any other. No, it is not restricted with only these mantras. If they are more inclined towards any other mantras, they can choose that, like Om Namo Narayana or whatever it is. It depends on the religion also. Some people, they may have their own. Or if you are not very particular doing these mantras, you can take any positive affirmations, or you can just say that I am relaxed. It is an auto suggestion. So mentally you can say, I'm even open loudly also. Instead of mantra, you can say I'm relaxed, I'm relaxed. Like that, that also helps relaxation. So this is about sinusitis. Let's move on to asthma. So like sinusitis in the upper respiratory tract, asthma comes in the lower respiratory tracts. So it is a chronic condition, asthma, involving the airways in the lungs. So the bronchial tubes, in anatomy, physiology, you might have studied the structures, the bronchial tubes, all those things. So allow air to come in and out of the lungs. So what happens in asthma is that the airways are inflamed. Again, here it becomes inflamed. The inflammation happens in the lower respiratory tract. So they may become swollen. Muscles around the airways can tighten when some trigger, when the person exposed to triggers. This makes difficult for air to move in or out of the lungs, causing symptoms such as coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, and chest tightness. All these are symptoms of asthma. There are different types of asthma is there, like exercise-induced bronchoconstriction or exercise-induced asthma is another type where exercise may induce asthma. So we need to be careful when giving the yogic practices. It is not more dynamic kind of practices. If it induces the asthmatic attack, then we need to be careful how to give the yogic practices. So it is individualized again. If the person is more getting exercise induced asthma, then teaching them would be should be different according to the individual. Maybe giving more breathing practices initially, and then move gradually with slow movement, incorporating breath would prepare the person moving towards the yogic practices. So here are the symptoms in asthma. Shortness of breath may be there. Whistling sound may come when the person is having asthmatic attack. It is not that asthma people will be having throughout the year or something. There will be relapse in remission or panic attack where a certain period of time they may the symptom may trigger the asthmatic attack. So giving practices at that time would be challenging, but like I said, for sinusitis, not the practices are not intense during asthmatic attack. It is other times where the yogic practices should be focused more on. So the symptoms I was discussing about. Chronic coughing is also a symptom, and trouble sleeping due to coughing or wheezing also. So yogic practices for asthma. Here again, the kriyas play the role. Kriyas like Vamana Dauti, Jalaneti, Sutraneti, all are helpful. Again, here in sinusitis, it was hypersensitive in the upper respiratory tract. In asthma, it is the hypersensitivity of the lower respiratory tract. So the kriyas, wherein kriyas, we train the involuntary system by introducing the external object. Like in Jalaneti, we introduce water, and in Sutraneti, we introduce this catheter. Like that, here also we try to bring the hypersensitivity of the lower respiratory tract. If we see the yogic practices, we try to have control over the involuntary nervous system, which is core to the yogic practices, whether it is mudra or kriya, whatever it is, we try to bring voluntary control on the involuntary reflexes. So in asthma also, we try to focus on this. So that is why I told that it is not during the asthmatic attack. It is during other times when the person is not having the asthma, we need to focus on giving more practices. So lot of chest opening, the back arches can be given. You may in the yoga field, we gradually introduce the back arches. So modified mild back arches with the props can be introduced, gradually taking them towards more chest opening asanas. And this one, inversions are also very helpful. With a gradual progression of the practices, it's not immediately we give the back arches. It gradually we work towards taking them towards the inversions. So what happens in inversions is that we try to strengthen the lower respiratory tract. So inversion, what happens in inversion, how the strengthening of the lower respiratory system happens? Any idea? Yes, please. How the strengthening of the lower respiratory tract, you can send message. So my question is, I told
the breathe is against the muscular. All the internal organs will be moving downwards, and we'll be breathing against.
Yes, very good. So the strengthening happens as the abdominal organs pushes on the diaphragm. Diaphragm is an important respiratory organ. So it yes, breathing exercise. It happens in the breathing exercise also. Yeah, the mucus is removed. More than that, it is strengthening the lower respiratory tract. In inversions, we need to inhale against the abdominal organ. The abdominal organ is pushing downward because of the gravity, right? So where you have to inhale in this position, you have to move the diaphragm against the abdominal organ. It is challenging, right? Inversion, the breathing is challenged in inversion. So we maintain in inversion and do breathing, normal breathing there, challenges the respiratory system. That helps to, so where you challenge the system, that helps to strengthen the system. So not only that, this with regard to the inversions, not only that, the chanting is very helpful. The chanting is very helpful. Like sinusitis, I told, the chanting, any mantra can be used where they can loudly chant. Here, loud chant is essential. When working on the respiratory system, the loud chanting is essential. As I mentioned yesterday, when loudly chanting, it extends your exhalation. Yes, Uma, it extends your exhalation. And not only that, it gives much focus to the mind also, where the mind is in the practice when you give some sounds on exhale, where the body, breath, mind is working when you include the chanting. So when it is respiratory conditions, chanting would be very helpful. So that can be done even in lying, abdominal breathing, placing the palm on the abdomen, lower abdomen, They can inhale on exhale. We can do chanting, which directly works on exhalation. So chanting we will be doing on exhale, right? So that is very helpful in respiratory condition. So we can move on to the next condition, I think. If you have any doubts in a respiratory, we discussed the sinusitis and asthma. We can discuss before we move on to epilepsy, because this is an entirely different area. Few seconds, let us not take much time as we need to cover more topics, just few minutes, and then we'll move on to epilepsy. More of relaxation practice may help during attack, and using props. So the spine supported relaxation practices, the recuperative asanas may be helpful, where the spine can be rested against the bolster. In yoga we use bolster, or you can use a pillow kind of thing, where the relaxation recuperative poses can be given during attack with the support of the spine. Okay, let us move on to epilepsy. So epilepsy is a central nervous system disorder in which brain activity becomes abnormal, causing seizures. In Tamil, we call it as valipu, or periods of unusual behavior, sensations, and sometimes loss of awareness. In epilepsy, it is the where the activity of the brain becomes abnormal. So we'll see in detail. It is a chronic non-communicable disease of the brain that affects people of all ages. So what is the symptoms of epilepsy? So epilepsy is a disorder marked by disturbed electrical rhythm. So there is the electrical rhythm in our brain. When it gets disturbed, it leads to epilepsy. The symptoms of epilepsy are loss of consciousness, anxiety, staring, weakness, muscle contraction, and jerking are some of the symptoms of epilepsy. Like I already mentioned, it is not necessary that all these symptoms has to be present in a person. It may vary person to person. Some people may just stare blankly for a few seconds during a seizure. For some, they may have the twitching in their arms and legs. Other symptoms may include temporary confusion, stiff muscles, uncontrollable jerking movements may also be there. So what we should not do in epilepsy, that we need to know it. It's a general knowledge that we need to know. If a person is having epilepsy, what we should not do. If the person is wearing glasses, we should remove the glass. If the cloths are very tight, we have to make them for more, to make the breathing more comfortable, we can loosen their clothes, and we have to make them turn on sides if they are if you are making them to lie down, they need to lie down on their sides. We should not put anything in the mouth when a person is having epilepsy. And we should not give water also. Sometimes it may get into airways, which may complicate the condition. So it's better when the person is having epilepsy, we should not give them any water. If help need be, we can give the help appropriately. There are two types of seizures are there. One is focal, where it is localized. Another is generalized seizures. In generalized, the abnormal electrical activity may happen in the whole of the brain. In focal seizure, it may be a particular part of the brain. So diagnosis, there are, to find out it is the epilepsy, they can go for MRS, MEG, PET or SPECT scan, CT scan. All these may help to confirm whether it is epilepsy. So the causes, what are the causes they say is, there may be genetic influence, a trauma to the head may lead to epilepsy, brain abnormalities could also be one of the reasons, infections, and prenatal injury or developmental disorders could also be one of the causes of seizures. Just half an hour. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is the here how we work on yoga for epilepsy? So lot of relaxation can be given immediately after the epilepsy. The relaxation practice can be given like a supported spine, I told, right? Recuperating poses, using props where the spine can be rested. Like that kind of relaxation practice can be given immediately afterwards. Not intense practice should be given. So all the practice should be given other time when the person is not having attack. Other time we can work on the practices where we try to, our focus here is to bring the electrical activity, normal electrical activity, because we've seen that epilepsy is the disturbed electrical activity in the brain. So our focus here is to bring the electrical activity to normal through our yogic practices. See, for all these, I didn't mention about the stress. Stress could also be one of the causes, major causes of these problems. It is not mentioned here because for any diseases, if you don't know the cause, you can put on stress. Like that, stress plays a major role for any condition. The underlying cause could also be stress. So like yesterday, I mentioned that all the practices, the yogic practices work on the nervous system. So when working on the nervous system, it is the central nervous system. The gradual practice is like a forward bend. Initially, we can give forward bend, gradually half forward bend, standing half forward bend, like Ardha Uttanasana and Adho-Mukha Svanasana. Like that, we can progress them to from the forward bending asanas where the blood circulation would be more towards the brain. So gradual progress towards the forward bend, standing forward bend, seated forward bend, and moving them towards the inversions where the blood circulation is facilitated in inversions towards the brain. So it is not only the blood circulation is facilitated towards the brain, it is also, like yesterday I mentioned, through working on the vagus nerve, we try to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is very core to yogic practices, where the parasympathetic nervous system is activated to bring more rest and digest. No, parasympathetic system is for rest and digestion, where recuperation, hibernation happens when parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So that is our focus here. Bring more practices focusing the blood circulation. So here, when I mention blood circulation, it is not in yogic practices, it is not near the blood circulation towards the brain. It is more focused on prana, taking prana towards the head. So people will understand if I say blood circulation more, because the term prana would be more abstract for people to understand. So I'm using this blood circulation, but actually the yogic point of view is that bringing more prana. So that is core to yoga therapy also, where like yesterday I mentioned, the prana, where the prana flows, it takes the healing potential there, and it brings normal functioning of that particular part of the body. And for working on the parasympathetic nervous system, not only the forward bends or inversions, chanting can help, and pranayama like Shetali pranayama, Brahmari pranayama, Nadi Shodhana, Ujjayi pranayama, all these are very helpful. We should not immediately give them any inversions. Gradually, for any condition, the inversion plays a vital role, but how you are taking towards inversion is very important. The preparation is very important, and it is more individualized. Yes. So now we are moving towards the migraine. So migraine again is a neurological syndrome characterized by the altered body perceptions, headaches, and nausea. The typical migraine headache is unilateral. No, migraine means one-sided. Unilateral means on one side of your head may feel more throbbing and pulsing sensation. And people having migraine, they may perceive an aura. Aura means here in migraine, aura is warning signs. Migraine always comes with the most of the time, not necessarily all the time, most of the time it comes with an warning signs. Aura, which is aura here, is the warning signs. Before the person gets into aura, they'll be getting warning signs. They'll know, okay, I'm going to get migraine in few hours or few days. So the most common aura is the visual and may include both positive and negative visual field defects. Sometimes it could be also without aura. It not necessarily all the person should have aura. We are not going into more detail about the condition. We are seeing the overview and how we can work with the yogic practices. So what are all the cause for migraine is chemical change in brain, changes in the chemicals of brain like serotonin, and decreased low level of serotonin could also be one of the causes leading towards the migraine. And for some people, in women mainly, if they are going to get the menstruation, that may lead them towards getting into the migraine. So here we need to know the triggers, because it based on the trigger. If the person is exposed to triggers, then they may get into this migraine problem. So the trigger could be emotional, like stress, anxiety, tension, or too much of excitement also. It's not necessarily stress or anxiety. Sometimes, but because of the excitement also, the person may get into migraine. And a physical trigger would be like poor posture, poor sleep, long travel, low blood sugar could also lead to migraine. And diet, when it comes to diet, delayed diet, delayed food dehydration, alcohol intake, caffeine intake like coffee or tea could trigger migraine attack. Again, it differs person to person. For some, the caffeine could be the trigger. For some, the stress or anxiety could be the trigger. And environmental factors also, not only the other factors, environmental factor like bright light, flickering screen, or loud noise, and climate change, and very strong smell may also lead towards getting into migraine. And sometimes it could be due to the medication, like contraceptive pills and sleep tablets could also lead towards migraine. So how we have to manage when it comes to migraine? We need to avoid the triggers. So even in epilepsy also, don't make noise. Trigger avoidance. Even in epilepsy, there are some triggers. Triggers would be there. So they should avoid the triggers like not having food on time. In epilepsy, that also could be the trigger to getting into epilepsy. Not having food on time and low blood sugar levels, all these could lead to epilepsy. And here in migraine, we seen what are all the triggers. So we should try to avoid the triggers as the person may become. So how yogic practices helps is that when the person gets more yogic practices, the long time practice, again in chronic conditions and the conditions like this, it need to be a long time practice. So long time practice brings them more awareness of their body, the mind, everything. They become more aware of what is happening physiologically, pathologically, if it is what is happening in their body. So that awareness gives them, when they are exposed to some trigger, they become more aware that these are the triggers that has to be avoided. So that discipline, it brings them the discipline to regulate their lifestyle. For that, they need to regulate their lifestyle, otherwise they'll be into more it would be very difficult for managing these conditions. So yogic practices, long-time yogic practices gives them, equips them how to manage and how to avoid the triggers, and what kind of disciplined life they have to lead to come out of this condition. It empowers them by giving them the confidence, the discipline through the yogic practices. All this happens with the long time practices. All the yogic practices, not asana, pranayama, and meditation, all these empowers them to have good control over their triggers. And sleep is very essential. And again, yogic practices leads towards good sleep and helps them to avoid these triggers. So like sinusitis, for migraine also, the kriyas like Jalaneti, Sutranetri, and Vamanadauti are all helpful. And asanas like Tadasana, all these are helpful. See, I'm not getting into each asana, all these things. I'm giving an overall idea how yogic practices can help. Like in epilepsy, here our focus also is working towards taking prana more towards the brain region. It is not that only onto the brain region, but more focus is there. We work all over the body in any yogic practices, but here when they have any specific condition like epilepsy or migraine, then our focus would be more towards enhancing the prana flow towards the brain structure, mainly because the migraine, epilepsy all happens in the head region. So Brahmari, Pranayama, Nadi Shodhana, all these are helpful, and Jalandhara Bandha, where it stimulates vagus nerve and brings parasympathetic nervous, activates parasympathetic system, are helpful. Simple meditation technique can be given like Om meditation, Yoga Nidra, breath awareness itself could work. Let's move on to the next condition. So this is stroke. So yesterday we were seeing about hypertension. So uncontrolled hypertension could lead towards stroke. Stroke where it could happen due to the blockage in the artery. The artery takes the blood towards the brain. So when the artery gets blocked due to thrombosis, it could lead to stroke. There are different types of, move on to the next other slides. So the thrombosis or embolism, all these can lead to stroke. So what happens in thrombosis, as we have very limited time, not able to go much into detail. So when the blood arteries are blocked with this embolism or thrombosis, it may obstruct the path of the blood. So if the path of the blood towards the brain, if it is blocked, then it leads to stroke. It could be ischemic stroke, where an artery could be blocked, causing stroke. And another one is hemorrhagic stroke, where the artery or blood vessel may leak or burst, leading towards the stroke. So the part where the artery blocks the blood circulation, that part of the brain may get into attack, like in a heart attack. Here the brain structure get attacks. That is why in a stroke, the which part of the brain involved, the corresponding activity in the body may get affected. Like we may know that one part of the body may become dysfunctional. The motor neurons, if they get affected, they may not able to move the limbs, any one side of the limbs. Most of the time it get affected, either right side or left side. If the right side of the brain is affected, the left side of the body may get affected. If the left side of the brain got into stroke, the right side of the body may get into problem. So let's move on. Next one. So here the yogic practices, overall how we have to give yogic practices here is that to prevent the embolism or thrombosis. Here the focus goal should be preventing the embolism or thrombosis. So we may know that the increase in the LDL, triglycerides, all these leads to deposit of these LDL, all the bad cholesterol, we call it bad cholesterol, right? Accumulation in the arteries. So the goal should be to work on reducing this cholesterol level, where the flow, the blood flow in the artery should be facilitated. Like yesterday I told that a cardiovascular, where we have to work on the vascular system, and yogic practices are very helpful here. But in uncontrolled hypertension, we need to be very, very careful, because this hypertension, yesterday I told, like a silent killer, hypertension is a silent killer, may lead to these very worst conditions if it is uncontrolled. So have to be more careful if the person is having hypertension, that too if it is not in uncontrolled conditions, because it may lead towards these worst conditions, like wherever the artery is blocked with a thrombosis or embolism, that part of the body may get into, it may be the kidney or other part of the vital organs. So initially, mild gentle stretching practices along with a lot of breathing has to be given, and gradually progress forward, facilitating working on the arteries where the blood flow in the arteries can be maintained. So like yesterday I mentioned, the elasticity of the blood vessels has to be maintained, because as the person ages or due to lifestyle, the vessels may become rigid. So yogic practices are very helpful in bringing back the elasticity of the arteries. Not only bringing back the elasticity of the arteries, need to facilitate more metabolic activity. So when metabolism is good, it burns the cholesterol, the fat and all cholesterol can be worked on. So we should focus on increasing the LDL and reducing the increasing the HDL and reducing the LDL, the bad cholesterol. So yogic practices are very helpful for that, but how we are progressing forward should be more important. And pranayama practices are safe. I told that we have to very gradually move forward, but when it comes to pranayama, it's very helpful as there is not much risk in giving pranayama. So initially we won't be giving kumbhaka, so it is very safe. So introducing like a Nadi Shodhana and Brahmari Pranayama, Shitali Pranayama, all these are very helpful, along with a mild, gentle asana practice, and chanting can be given if the underlying one of the causes is stress. Yeah, let's move on further. So vertigo is a sensation that the environment around you is spinning in circles. The person who is having vertigo may feel like the room is spinning, and make the person feel more dizzy and out of balance. It is not a disease, actually it is a condition. So the causes for vertigo could be migraine. We just seen migraine. So migraine could lead to vertigo, and sometimes it could be head injuries and other factors like arrhythmia could lead to vertigo. Yes, go. Symptoms is dizziness. Just now I told, like we feel like the room is spinning and losing loss of balance, and nausea, vomiting. Even in migraine, the vomiting or nausea sensation could be there as a symptoms. Same like vertigo. Yeah. So for vertigo, so what is here the yogic practice should be is like, as I mentioned, that off balance, the person may lose balance, find it difficult balancing. So there are now, as I mentioned, that person is able to find it difficult to balance. In yogic practice, we have this balancing asanas. So balancing asanas are challenging. Again, when giving balancing asanas, it has to be very, very careful, because person having vertigo may fall down. So supported balancing asanas can be given, the Vrikshasana or Virabhadrasana 3. We know that a lot of balancing asanas are there. Even Tadasana, coming up on the toes, can be given, but supported, because the person may tend to get lose the balance. So give support. The person should be, if the vertigo symptoms are more severe, then the teacher has to stand in front of the person when giving the practices. Mainly the balancing asanas that comes in standing category, right? So when we stand to the person, so it will be helpful if they get out of balance. So they may get out of balance, but at the same time, balancing asanas are helpful, because as we challenge the system, it becomes used to it, and slowly we may help the person to bring back to balance. And pranayama like Nadishodhana, Shitali, Brahmari, all these are helpful. Yeah, move forward. As there are too many conditions or diseases to be covered, we are seeing overall idea, yoga, how we can give an overall idea only. We are seeing, we are not getting into each and every practice, how to do it. It is an overall idea. So another few minutes are there. I hope we can complete this constipation. So you may know that it is a lower digestive system. Most of the time it is the chronic one. It is a chronic disorder of lower digestive system, in which elimination of solid waste from the body are slow and inefficient. Move on. So the symptoms of constipation are passing fewer than 3 stools a week, lumpy or hard stools, straining to have bowel movements, feelings as though there is blockage in the rectum, as though can't completely empty the rectum is also one of the symptoms. So causes of constipation would include poor dietary habits, lack of fiber intake, and water intake also. When a person is not taking more water, that also leads to constipation. It needs some good activity. So when person is not physically active much, also could lead to constipation. Yes, move on. So here again, what is the idea here in constipation is peristaltic movement. We need to work on facilitating the peristaltic movement. So practices which works on like Agni Shara, Kapalbhati. So all these are Nauli. All these are very helpful in facilitating the peristaltic movement, because of intense work on the abdominal region in Kapalbhati, Agni Shara, Nauli. In all these, where an intense activity happens to the abdominal region, where good blood circulation happens. And when I say blood circulation, it is prana, we focus more. So happens, and that helps to enhance the peristaltic movement. So Uddiyana Bandha, again, trying to have good blood circulation. This Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Maha Bandha, all these are very helpful, where it brings works on the nervous system at the lower part of our body. And when it comes to asanas, it is more of twisting asanas and forward bends, all this. No, it's not restricted that only twist when it comes to constipation, because in forward bend, they will be having good compression. That also brings good blood circulation to the abdominal region. And forward bends and backward bends also, where it stretches the front of the abdomen, and twist where squeezing action happens. All these are very helpful, and inversions also are very helpful, where it is against in inversions again it is challenged, where the compression, the intra-abdominal pressure, it's working on the intra-abdominal pressure, that slowly helps bringing facilitating the peristaltic movement, which enhances the bowel movement, regular bowel movement, along with the dietary modification. Good diet, good sleep, and good water intake all helps in working on the constipation. So with this, we complete today's session. We'll see more tomorrow. As my time is very restricted, I'm giving overall idea, yogic practices. I'm not discussing much into how in detail about the pathology, physiology. I'm very sorry due to the time restriction. So we can have few minutes interactive session, and then we wind up with the closing prayer. So if there is any questions, few questions, we can go ahead. Thank you so much for your time and patiently listening and observing attending our classes. And thank you to our Principal Sir Ilangovan Sir for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my views and the yogic perspectives with you all. And thank you to our FYST and MAHER, and thank you all for attending. I have one more session tomorrow, and then afterwards, again, we will have it. Tomorrow, 7 to 8, again, we'll be continuing. So let us go with the ending prayer. Janani, are you there? Janani?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You can go with the ending prayer. Closing prayer. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Please close your eyes. Spine erect. Anjali Mudra. Oh. Oh. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om asato ma satkamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityoma amratangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.